Now, everybody, of course, has their eyes on Arizona. By the way, I heard a rumor that there's a possibility of the L.A. Lakers boycotting the Phoenix Suns in a basketball game next week. That's kind of something that's being floated. And if it's the case, would that mean that L.A. would forfeit the game if they didn't show up?
Well, it certainly should mean that. I mean, if they want to go ahead and take a stand like that now. David Stern, the NBA commissioner, has unfortunately said some inane and ill-informed things about what has actually transpired here in Arizona. But it's real simple to me. If the Lakers don't show up, they forfeit. Mm-hmm. And so if they really want to pull that kind of thing and are willing to forfeit the Western Conference Finals, that's fine by me. But there's been so much out there, and you and I have talked about it before, that deliberate disinformation, all that Senate Bill 1070 did was just simply to say Arizona will enforce federal laws concerning immigration that are already on the books. That's all it does. In many ways, it mirrors the Enforcement First Act that I wrote when I was a member of the United States House of Representatives. And it's long overdue, and you can see not only here in Arizona but nationwide there is significant support for this legislation.
Now, also, these cities that are around the country that are doing this quote-unquote boycott, when a government gets involved, it's no longer a boycott, it is an embargo, and it is unconstitutional for a state or a municipality, a city government, a government to embargo another state or municipality in our country, is it not?
It would seem to me under full faith and credit, and while we typically think of that as involving statute and laws, when you are part of the United States of America, it is in a sense is taking away that full faith and credit for governmental entities at any level to say, no, we're going to arbitrarily cut off contact and commerce with another part or another state in the union. It's just it's just crazy.
I mean, that's what the federal government should be arguing. Holder should be arguing that what these states, what San Francisco and Los Angeles and Boston, what they're doing is unconstitutional. What Arizona is doing is actually following the law.
Well, that's exactly the case. But then again, don't expect that out of Eric Holder.
No.
The sad fact is when you have a radical like Mr. Holder as Attorney General who looks the other way in clear cases of voter intimidation, where the Black Panthers in Philadelphia on Election Day 2008 went in and tried, quite frankly, on the basis of race, to intimidate Caucasian voters showing up at a precinct place. And you and I have seen those stories.
Yeah.
Holder and the Office of Civil Rights and the Justice Department refused to take action there. But rest assured, when Eric Holder can further his own leftist political agenda, he will not hesitate a nanosecond, no matter what the actual law is. And that's really what this comes down to. The left has so distorted what is at work here in an effort to win political points that I think it's really a testament to the good sense of the American people. Mm-hmm. They know a snow job when they see it. They know leftist political opportunism when they see it. And they know common sense when they see it. And what they've seen from the people of Arizona after an incredible amount of patience is now the outbreak of common sense and saying, we're not going to stand for this anymore. We're going to enforce federal law. And so I think the silver lining amidst all of this is really twofold. Number one, immigration law is going to be enforced in Arizona. And number two, the American people have shown their basic common sense, disregarding all the deliberate disinformation bandied about by the networks and, sadly, by the Obama administration.
J.D. Hayworth, the consistent conservative, JD4Senate.com. One more thing, I'll let you go, and that is, you watch Fox News, and Karl Rove has come out and said he doesn't think you're going to win. Dick Morris has said the same thing. Why are those guys wrong?
Well, now, that's interesting. I have not heard Dick say that. I expect it out of Karl Rove because he's an open borders guy.
Okay.
The assessment I've heard from Mr. Morris is a little different.
Okay, maybe I speaking, and if I am, thanks for correcting me.
No, that's okay. Look, Karl Rove's an open borders guy, and he's part of the Washington establishment. The Washington establishment desperately wants Mr. McCain to hang on. Because, again, and you and I have talked about it, there is still a split in the Republican Party. You have the anything for money side of the party that has somehow rationalized away the whole concept of national security and border security in favor of what they believe they're going to get, which is cheap labor. I don't think that's going to hold up, but I've got a lot of reasons for that, and maybe that's a conversation we can have later on. But just suffice to say that Karl Rove and that crowd is part of the Washington establishment that very much wants to see open borders and worked very hard for it during the Bush administration. And curiously enough, that's the one common ground or the one note of common outlook that the McCain and Bush forces share is this notion of open borders.
Now, when you say open borders, are you talking about getting rid of the border altogether and people can come and go as they please?
Well, at the very least, I'm talking about a reluctance to enforce the law and the issuance of yet another amnesty. And we all know that's dead wrong. And
okay, as a guy that wants to be the senator from Arizona, how bad is it down there? There's a lot of people who've never been to the border. Okay, you're the guy that's supposed to represent those people. Why should this law be enforced?
This law has to be enforced because failure to do so jeopardizes our national security. Failure to do so jeopardizes our economic security. And failure to do so absolutely says to the rest of the world that we are not willing to enforce our borders, and no less historical giant, a significant historical figure than Ronald Reagan said that a nation which fails to enforce its border will not much longer remain a nation.
Although Ronald Reagan gave amnesty, and
when you talk to Ed Meese and you talk to guys who were in the Reagan administration, they're up front that that was a big blunder. And of course, what President Reagan wanted to do was to enforce the laws. But I've talked to Border Patrol agents who said they were told starting in January of 1989, that's coinciding with the inauguration of Bush 41. They were actually told when they had a reasonable suspicion that someone had crossed the border illegally, if that person or that party used the word amnesty or the Spanish cognate amnestia, our Border Patrol was told to stand down and let the people into the country. And I've heard that straight from Border Patrol agents.
Unbelievable.
So President Reagan had a different intent. He wanted to enforce the law, and when you talk to Ed Meese, who was Mr. Reagan's Attorney General, he's made it very clear that what's going on now, this whole comprehensive immigration reform, is amnesty, and he is very forthright that the amnesty passed in 1986, Simpson-Mazzoli, was a miscalculation. And other historical occurrences I just pointed out in the transition from the Reagan to the Bush 1 administration showed an unwillingness to enforce federal law. And that brings us back right where we are today. A federal government unwilling to enforce the law, and the state of Arizona stepping in to fill that vacuum. And Rusty, I tell you, I think you're going to see a lot of other states do this in the days ahead.
Well, we need your help right now. He's doing $1 million drive right now from tax day to TV time. J.D. Hayworth has got a great TV commercial. It's got to get out there. The word has to be heard. Your help is needed, as are your dollars. JD4Senate.com. JD4Senate.com. J.D. Hayworth, it's always a pleasure. Build the damn fence, my friend.
And Rusty, the other side is thedangedtruth.com. You can check that out to see the two faces of John McCain on this issue.
I love it. J.D. Hayworth, thank you very much. We got to take a break and be right back right here on the Rusty Humphries Show.
Of the people, by the people, for the people. The Rusty Humphries Show. The Rusty Humphries Show.